Most people believe that exhaustion is a biological failure. We are taught that if the body is tired, it is due to a lack of sleep, a vitamin deficiency, or the crushing pressure of modern work. We view fatigue as a system error, a sign that we are weak, lazy, or perhaps chemically unbalanced. But that is not the only way to read the data. There is another explanation, a perspective that was buried under the Egyptian desert sands for 1,700 years. The exhaustion you feel, that heaviness that presses on your chest even after you have slept for 8 full hours, is not a disease. It is a symptom of extraction. You are not broken. You are being targeted. The ancient Gnostic texts, specifically the documents discovered at Nag Hammadi in 1945, describe a completely different reality of human energy. They argue that chronic fatigue does not originate from inside your biology, but is the result of a mechanism designed to siphon energy from the outside. To understand this, we must completely redefine the concepts of rest and energy through the lens of the Gospel of Thomas and the Pistis Sophia texts. The first definition we need to clarify is the nature of the term Archon. In mainstream religious texts, this term is often removed or mistranslated into simple demons. However, in the original Greek and within the context of Gnostic philosophy, Archon simply means ruler or governor. These are not monsters hiding under the bed. They are the architects of material reality. The ancient texts describe them as non-physical entities, forces that manage the laws of this physical realm. The most critical point that history has tried to obscure is their energetic nature. The Archons are described as spiritually bankrupt. They do not have the capacity to generate life energy, or what the Greeks called pneuma. They are like a machine that needs fuel but cannot produce that fuel itself. In contrast, human beings, or specifically the essence within humans that the texts call the divine spark, are perpetual energy reactors. We are connected directly to the monad, the source of all life and consciousness. This fundamental difference creates an unavoidable parasitic relationship. If one party needs energy to survive but cannot create it, and the other party contains an infinite source but does not know how to protect it, a harvesting system will be established. This is the most scientific and logical definition of what ancient texts called temptation. It is not about morality or sin. It is about energy economics. They need food, and the vibrational frequency of human emotion is that food. However, there is a specific technical mechanism they use to access this energy because they cannot take it directly. This is where we go deep into the mechanics of exhaustion. The mechanism operates on the principle of frequency resonance. Imagine your mind is a radio. The source energy, or the monad, broadcasts at an extremely high frequency, a frequency of creation, joy, and stillness. The Archons, due to their dense and material nature, oscillate at a very low frequency. They cannot touch, see, or consume energy at high frequencies. To be able to eat your energy, they are forced to lower your frequency down to a level they can access. They must convert your pure energy into a more polluted, denser form. This conversion process is the source of all the psychological fatigue you experience. The primary method they use to lower your frequency is not a direct attack, but through the implantation of thoughts and emotional loops. The Gnostic texts, particularly the Apocryphon of John, describe how these entities are envious of humanity and seek to make humans forget their origins. In a modern context, we can see this through the phenomenon of intrusive thoughts. Have you ever noticed that the most negative thoughts often appear right when you are about to go to sleep or the moment you wake up? That is not a coincidence. That is a calculated intervention. The mechanism works like this. First, they implant a thought of anxiety about the future or a shameful memory from the past into your mind. If you identify with that thought, If you believe that thought is yours, your body responds by releasing cortisol and adrenaline. This chemical state of stress lowers the vibrational frequency of the energy field around you. At that exact moment, your energy shifts from a pure state to a state of fear or guilt energy. And that is precisely when it becomes consumable food for this parasitic system. But the mechanism is even more sophisticated than that. The Archons have perfected the art of creating paradoxical loops. Let us examine closely the feeling of guilt when resting. This is one of the most effective energy traps ever designed. When your body is totally exhausted and you decide to lie down, instead of feeling restored, your mind is immediately attacked by self-critical thoughts. You think you are being lazy, that you should be more productive, that you are wasting time. The result is that even though your physical body is lying still, your energy body is working at full capacity to process the emotion of guilt. Guilt is one of the lowest and densest frequencies in the human emotional spectrum. It is like a feast for these parasitic entities. They drain your energy to make you need rest. Then they attack you with guilt the moment you rest to drain you again. This is a perfect closed loop, ensuring that you never truly recharge. You wake up more tired than when you went to bed because during sleep, your subconscious was still fighting against simulated scenarios designed to induce anxiety. The effect of misunderstanding this mechanism is severe. When we believe that fatigue is our own fault, we begin a war against ourselves. We drink more caffeine, we force ourselves to work harder, we seek surface-level solutions like sleeping pills or expensive vacations. But none of those things solve the root problem, because the energy leak is not located in the physical body. The biggest consequence is a gradual disconnection from intuition and life purpose. When your energy is constantly being harvested, you fall into survival mode. You no longer have enough surplus energy to create, to dream, or to question reality. You become obedient, controllable, and predictable. This is exactly the state the control system desires. A human population with enough energy to work and operate society, but too exhausted to rebel or awaken. The Gospel of Philip stated very clearly that these forces wanted to take the free person and make them a slave, not through iron chains, but through the exhaustion of the spirit. A tired soul is a soul that does not question. However, when we shift our perspective and apply the knowledge from these hidden texts, we can reverse the process. Liberation does not come from fighting the Archons, because fighting only creates more resistance and negative energy, which they can also consume. Liberation comes from recognition and detachment. This is the technique the Gnostics called spiritual discernment. It relies on 3 core recognitions to break the cycle of energy harvesting. The first recognition is the externalization of symptoms. You must start practicing the observation of fatigue and negative thoughts as external objects rather than intrinsic characteristics of yourself. When a thought of self-doubt or anxiety appears, instead of saying, "I am anxious," correct it to, "There is anxiety trying to enter my energy field." This shift in language sounds simple, but neurologically and spiritually, it creates a safe distance between your consciousness and the attack. The Archons rely on camouflage. They need you to believe that the voice in your head is your own. When you realize that not every thought originates from you, their camouflage is broken. They cannot control what you do not own. The second recognition relates to the true nature of the energy source. We need to understand the concept of the monad more scientifically. Think of the monad as an infinite broadcasting station, and you are a receiver. Exhaustion happens not because the station stopped broadcasting, but because the signal is jammed. This interference is the low-frequency emotions we discussed. To restore energy, you do not need to generate it from personal effort or willpower. You simply need to remove the interference so the natural flow is restored. This means you do not need to try not to be tired. You just need to stop identifying with the tiredness. Imagine life energy as electricity that is always available in the socket. You do not need to beg the power company to provide electricity, you just need to plug in. Similarly, your power comes from recognizing that you are an extension of the source energy. You are not a drained battery. You are a conductor of an infinite current. The third recognition, and perhaps the most important, is about authority and sovereignty. For thousands of years, religious and social structures have taught us that we need permission from the outside to be safe, to be forgiven, or to be powerful. The Gnostic texts reject this entirely. They assert that every individual carrying the divine spark has ultimate authority over their own energy space. The Archons, while they may seem powerful and terrifying, are actually just parasites. In nature, the host is always stronger than the parasite. The parasite can only exist if the host does not recognize its presence or believes it is weaker than the parasite. When you establish your energetic boundaries, not with fear, but with cold and certain understanding, the draining stops. It stops because you have shifted your vibrational frequency to a level they cannot access. Fear vibrates low. Understanding and internal authority vibrate high. When you move from fear to understanding, you become invisible to them. Applying these three recognitions in real life requires a discipline of the mind, or what the ancients called continuous mindfulness. This is not a miracle that happens overnight, but a process of reprogramming the response system of the brain and the energy body. Let us look at a specific scenario to see how it works. Suppose you just finished a big project and immediately feel a wave of exhaustion hit you, followed by the thought that what you did was not good enough. Under the old habit, you would believe that thought, feel sad, and lie on the couch in paralysis. Your energy is harvested. But with this new understanding, you stop right at the moment that thought appears. You apply the first recognition. You observe the thought of not good enough and label it as an intrusion attempt. You refuse the guilt it brings. Next, you apply the second recognition. You recall that this exhaustion is a sign you just released creative energy, and because that energy is precious, it is being targeted. You are not weak, you are shining, and that light attracts attention. Finally, you apply the third recognition. You declare your sovereignty. You decide to rest not because you collapsed, but because you actively choose to recharge to prepare for the next step. You rest in peace, not in torment. The difference between resting in peace and resting in guilt is the difference between charging the battery and being drained. When you start practicing this method, you will notice distinct physiological and psychological changes. The ancient texts call this the resurrection of the mind. In the first few days, resistance from old habits will be strong. Your brain is used to the neural pathways of anxiety and self-blame. It is like withdrawing from a stimulant. The Archons, or in modern language, the parasitic patterns in the mind, will try to throw more reasons at you to worry in order to pull you back to the old frequency. This is the most critical phase. The increase in negative thoughts during the initial practice is not a sign of failure, but a sign that the method is working. The parasites are hungry and they are reacting violently. If you persist in maintaining the state of observation and non-identification, the storm will pass. After about a week of consistent practice of detaching from negative thoughts, you will experience what the Pistis Sophia calls the silence of the governors. The critical voices in your head will lower their volume. The unexplained exhaustion will disappear, replaced by a steady and sustainable source of energy. You will no longer feel drained after being in crowds or after a day of work. because you have closed the connection ports through which energy usually leaks. You begin to sleep deeper and wake up feeling truly restored. This is not magic. This is energy mechanics. When you stop providing food, the predator leaves to find an easier target. A deeper effect of this is a shift in how you view the world and your place in it. When you are no longer blinded by the fog of chronic exhaustion, you start to see control patterns everywhere. You realize that the entire modern social structure is designed to keep humans in a low-frequency state. The 24-hour news cycle focuses on disaster. Social media is designed to trigger comparison and envy. Processed food numbs the nervous system. All serve the same purpose: to create a human population that is tired, anxious, and easy to exploit. But when you hold the key of recognition, you can live in this world without belonging to it. You can observe the chaos without letting it enter your energy field. It is important to remember that this knowledge was suppressed for 17 centuries, not because it was heresy, but because it gave too much power to the individual. A human who knows how to protect their energy and connect directly to the source is a human who cannot be governed. The Gnostic libraries were burned. Those who held the knowledge were hunted, all to prevent this information from spreading. They wanted you to believe you needed an intermediary to reach the divine, and that your suffering was a natural part of life. But the truth lies right in your breath, right in your heartbeat. You were not designed to endure exhaustion. You were designed to operate with the infinite energy of the universe. When you leave this video and return to your daily life, take these 3 tools of recognition with you as your secret weapons. Do not try to change the external world immediately. Start from the internal world. Pay attention to the moment your energy starts to drop. Question every sudden wave of fatigue. Challenge every self-deprecating thought. Remember that your attention is the most valuable currency in this universe. Whatever captures your attention is trying to connect with your energy. When you withdraw your attention from useless anxieties, from online arguments, from the torment of the past, you are cutting the supply line to the Archons and redirecting that energy flow back to nourish yourself. This is the path of the modern Gnostic. No robes needed, no secret rituals in caves required. Just sharp mindfulness in the heart of modern society. Every time you choose peace over anxiety, you are performing an act of rebellion against the control system. Every time you choose to believe in your worth instead of the judgment of others, you are breaking the invisible chains that have bound humanity for thousands of years. Exhaustion is not your destiny. It is an outdated program, and you hold the code to rewrite it. Observe, detach, and reclaim your sovereignty. The real war is not happening on a battlefield, but in the mind. And victory belongs to the one who keeps their peace in the eye of the storm. You have the map. You have the tools. The rest depends on your choice in every moment, every breath, every thought. Start right now. Not with a grand declaration, but with the powerful silence of an awakened mind.